Hello, my name is Mike Harley, and I direct the Southern Exposure New Music Series at the University of South Carolina. I also play bassoon with a group called Alarmal Sound that's going to be featured on our upcoming concert on February 19 at 7:30 p.m. Online. And I'm here with some friends from Alarmal Sound. It's great to see you all. We've got Gavin Chuck here,
Hi.
Beth Stimpert, Miles Brown, and Michael Clayville. This is a special kind of opportunity for me to bring a group that I play with to this series. And we're doing a number of pieces, or we're broadcasting a number of pieces that the group has been doing over the past several months during the pandemic that we're calling video chat variations. And Gavin, I wonder if you could start by talking a little bit about these pieces and the idea for them.
Sure. So I think the immediate reaction to the pandemic from the performing arts community was to jump online in March of 2020. And so we saw a lot of content being pushed out online. And at the same time, our work lives immediately shifted to Zoom. And it occurred to me that those platforms were being used as kind of a stopgap, a replacement for live performance, and that the technology was used as a medium to put out a lot of work that maybe was on archive, a lot of solo people were playing. And I thought, it would be more interesting if instead of thinking about video chat as a medium, if we challenged composers to use video chat as artistic material. I remember saying to Alan in an initial conversation, just trying this idea out, that a bassoon is a piece of technology and use it to make music. Video chat's a technology. Can we use that to make music? And Alan just encouraged me then to write the group with that general idea of putting work out where the medium was not merely just a way of getting music out to people, but actually also a way of making music. And I think that addressed a larger concern that I had, which was March, April, May of 2020. It was just not clear how long we were going to be in this situation. And the feeling of life being sort of on hold and doing things on a stopgap basis, just like filling time. I thought, I want to be more optimistic than that. And actually, if we make work for the video chat medium and embraced all of its technological quirks and possibilities, that work would actually last, just like we still play bassoon music from 200 years ago.
Sure.
So that was the idea that I tossed out to the group. And then I think it was discussed on email as we do in Alarmal Sound.
From what I remember, it was mostly just diving into who we would want to collaborate with on these projects and trying to figure out artists that would be interested in diving in creative ways. And I know, Mike, you brought John Fitzrogers to the table, and I think this has been a great collaboration and a really great extension of the video chat variation series.
Yeah, and the pieces I should say that we'll be hearing on this broadcast, which again we've recorded together live. And I think the difference between what we've been doing and what you might hear a lot of groups do is that we're actually recording them in real time, like playing together, listening, using software that helps reduce the latency that occurs over something like Zoom, for example, but we're actually watching each other on Zoom and playing live together. John's piece is one of these that of course, this will be the world premiere of the piece on the 19th, but then previously we recorded a piece by Meredith Monk. We did this amazing improvisation led by composer and conductor and percussionist Chaishan Sori. We did something with a wonderful composer Rohan Chander that's really different, that involves the use of Wii controllers and remote controls and all kinds of crazy sounds, but has a really strong visual element as well. So, it's been interesting to explore the medium, but getting back to John's piece, yeah, this is John to me is a special composer. He's a friend and a colleague, first and foremost, but he also is the founder of the Southern Exposure New Music series that we'll be doing this concert on. And so it's kind of been a long dream of mine, a long time dream of mine to bring my friends from Alarm Will Sound together with my friend John Fitzrogers to do something on this series. So it's neat that the opportunity presented itself. And I was actually curious your guys' reactions to making music specifically with John's piece, which is really very ambitious. It's about 30 minutes long, through composed. It does involve improvisatory elements, but I'm curious about the experience in general of just making music with John's piece, but also comparing that with the experiences of maybe the Monk and the Sori, which are entirely different pieces.
About the experience of it, I just have to say that I am immensely grateful and thankful, not only that we have the technology to connect like this, but that we have this core of people who were willing to go all in on it. We even in the snowstorm last week when we were recording John Fitzrogers' piece, we had to scramble at the last minute to get the New York people recording from home for the rehearsals because they couldn't get to the studio, and everybody went in and got it done. We've kind of learned through this process that there's nothing we can't do if we commit to it together, which has kind of always been central to the ethos of Alarm Will Sound. And it makes me really, really happy that I get to do that, even if it's all just happening in my headphones,
Right.
because it allows us to continue this creative collaboration that has been soul-sustaining for all of us.
Yeah,
So-
I find it really interesting, just quickly off of what Beth said, like just the pandemic situation and the circumstances that we have to go through then to create music. My wife and I are both in the band, and we have a 1-year-old in the house. And so rehearsals are, with him running around behind us, throwing things and getting into stuff and trying to eat food and not doing very well. And everybody's very empathetic and understanding, and it's great to be in an environment where people can put up with that situation. But it's also just the result of the circumstances. I know we're stepping away from the music making itself, but the logistics are also
Yeah.
different.
Well, and you and Erin, our flutist, are like the only two members of the group that really get to be next to each other, right next to each other, and playing without masks and everything.
Yeah.
And Eamon has provided some really wonderful aleatoric moments in the background of our recording and rehearsal sessions for sure. So,
Miles, you were going to say something?
Well, I just think that it's one of the unique things that I found was similar to a live performance situation, in that we actually have to pay attention to each other in a little different way, and even a little more than maybe we would have before. It's often the case in a live performance situation that we're on opposite sides of the stage, and we have the people that are around us that we hear, and we don't hear the other people on the other side of the stage. Now everybody is right there in the front of the soundscape, more or less. Yeah. And especially from an improvisational standpoint, this medium lends itself beautifully to that sort of listening and that sort of playing, unlike this type of playing that we normally do, which is often quite rhythmically complicated and intricate. This had to be exactly the opposite. And I think actually John accomplished this masterfully. The other composers did too, with Taishan Sori's piece, for example. It was more improvisational on our own, on our, and then we put all that stuff together. But with John's piece, he really built that aspect of improvisation and spontaneous music making into the score itself. As Beth was saying, it's really cool that we have people that can interpret it that way. It is through composed, but pretty much everybody, to my understanding, has moments of improvisation based on certain pitch groups.
Yeah.
Right. So the way that John wrote that, it is composed with a certain harmony, but all of us are actually composing in the moment also. I think that's really, this medium is a really beautiful way to deal with the creation process.
That's one of the gifts to me of this whole experience, is I feel like I've grown just a bit as an improviser. some in the group, Miles, for example, you are a wonderful improviser and do that partly for a living, and I'm one of these people that don't get to do it as much. And it's been a real gift to me to kind of explore that a little more. As you say, not only with John's piece, but also with Tyshawn Stories, which is more of a free improv, the thing that he, of course, conducted and led, which is rather amazing. But yeah, that's been kind of a gift to me to be able to improvise more. And I guess another thing I've noticed, it's amazing how without the benefit of actually often seeing people's physical cues, or at least we can't always rely on them. Often what we're seeing from people is not quite coordinated with what we're hearing. And so I've noticed, like, I just have to laser in on what I'm hearing and react so carefully rather than depending on like the visual element as we maybe normally do in a particular concert.
I think that's a major benefit of John's piece. The score is beautifully detailed. There's so much information, and you can tell he put so much thought into it. And it really is constantly directing you back to your ears. Yes, there were visual cues happening. You'll see Alan conducting on the screen for parts of it. But yeah, what you were saying, Mike, is that like, really intensified listening is, I think, a very welcome benefit of this style of working, and I hope to continue cultivating that.
I think pedagogically, for all of us who are educators too, and for the students that have been involved, especially the USC students, I think that's something that is hard to teach, is that skill of developing your listening and reacting and then creating in the spot in that way. And I've actually found for my own teaching that there are certain things that are more successful than being in a one-on-one situation in the private. So it's been really cool to explore this in this last year. Do I miss being in person with people? Of course, but I definitely think that I will take some of the things that I've learned being virtual to an in-person situation too, both in the teaching studio and then also performing.
It was special to me to have we had 5 USC, University of South Carolina string players get to play with the group on some moments, on some of the kind of climactic moments in John's piece. And that was really special too. And that's something we never could have done. I don't know how we possibly could have said, oh, alarm will sound, let's come give a concert. And by the way, let's have some students play. I mean, it's just hard for that sort of thing to work out logistically. And so talk briefly about Meredith Monk's piece, which will start the program. Anything you guys recall with Meredith's piece, which was the very first thing that we tried? I just remember being in like a little cabin up in Michigan and trying to even figure out, how do I get an Ethernet connection? I just know about Wi-Fi, so we've come a long way. Do you guys remember the experience of that piece, the first thing?
2 days before the recording session, I was on Amazon Googling, Ethernet cable. Like getting an Ethernet cable shipped to my brother's house where I was for the week, and we learned a lot in that week through trial and error, I think.
Yeah, it was inspiring. I routed an Ethernet cable from my router all the way through my ductwork in my basement to the place where I performed, which I had never done any sort of like housework like that. I mean, what a weird benefit benefit of a skill to learn because of the music making process here.
Well, what was fantastic was finally hearing everybody's voices. Like once everything was ironed out and like we could actually communicate in real time, be able to play together in real time, I was really blown away. It's nice to be able to connect with y'all, with everybody in Alarm Will Sound. We've been together so long. This is the longest that we haven't seen each other in person in forever, 20 years plus. And so, it was special to be able to do that. And then with Meredith's music, which was like this gorgeous soundscape, just lush. And it felt nice. I could feel the bass. I could feel the bassoon. I could hear the clarinets. I could hear everything around me. Like you pointed out earlier, Miles, it's like a little undifferentiated in your ears. You just get this wall of sound, but it's still enveloping and fantastic. And it was great when it worked.
Yeah.
What I remember from that period was how much we had to do to simply get the technical platform working. And I remember that we had to budget for like maybe 90 minutes with each person Daniel Neumann, our sound engineer, had to work with individual setups. Virtuosic as you all are as performers and highly trained as you are, yeah, you're not IT professionals.
Nope.
And you had to learn
Not
that
at all.
stuff. And what's interesting to me from June of 2020 to now February of 2021 was actually how quickly we've adapted to that, and also how much the technical platform has grown. So we're working on that same basis that we did for the Meredith Monk. We basically incrementally improve the platform, I think, to a point where we actually have now found a way to make music together in a way that is stating the obvious. It is not what it is to be in real life together, but perhaps stating the non-obvious, it's actually also a cool way to make music. And I know on the organizational side, to reflect something that Miles said about taking lessons from this time into his teaching in the future, I know there are things that we will do organizationally in the future after the pandemic that will be using this technical platform, because I think there are things that it affords, whether it's collaborating with people in a more flexible way, like we do with USC students, or whether it is getting more out of our collaborations than we might have. So in the past, in the before times, the assumption, because playing together is sort of the gold standard, this working assumption was always that whenever we're workshopping pieces, we had to get everybody into the same room at the same time, even if it was just trying something. So we would often like fly in teams of people for 90 minutes of workshopping. We'd fly a total of 25 people together at great expense to workshop something, when in fact, actually, we can get a lot done. And we've learned that we can get a lot done through video chat in terms of workshopping. And now we know we can also get some interesting music out of it as well. So each step along the way of solving the problem has produced results that have traction. And even going from the Meredith Monk in July of 2020 to the Taishan story piece in October, I think the audience will see the evolution that we made. They'll also hear it and the kind of complex music making that we could do as we figured out the technical platform. That to me is really interesting. That relationship between, again, technology and art making, that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm very excited, and we're all very excited to share some of what we've been doing over the past 9-10 months or so with an audience on Friday, the 19th of February. And so we hope you can tune in. You can see the link below. You get to experience what Alarm Will Sound has been doing the past number of months with the program of video chat variations. Thank you all for coming. It's great to make music with friends, as always, and talk with you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, take care.